art is the most intense form of individualism the world has seen, Oscar Wilde once said, and I got that off of Brady quote. Now, art is something we all know a little bit about because most of us have either in the past taken an art course or are currently enrolled in an art course. And I personally know a lot about art because if it wasn't for our art program in our high school, then I probably wouldn't have shown up to school as much as I did. And my purpose of speaking to all of you today is to persuade you that art education should be considered more important in public schools. And there are many reasons that art should be considered more important. And amongst the ones I'm going to talk to you about today are how they can improve education, are amongst the first of programs to get cut, and help students express themselves. Now, there are many ways that art education helps improve overall education. For one, Americans for the Arts book Art Education Navigator, Facts and Figures, states that students who are enrolled in art courses are 4 times more likely than other students to be recognized for their academic achievement. And the theory behind this is that the students getting a break from their extraneous focus and the rest of their class time with a creative break of an art class allows them to focus better in the classroom. And artinaction.org has found in their studies that it improves right brain development as well. And the National Endowment for the Arts studies also show overall improvement in academic standing. And we all know that art programs are amongst the first to get cut whenever budget cuts are needed. And this is something that we see in our own schools. We noticed that there are less art classes and that they have to do a whole lot more fundraising. For instance, our school does more galas and fundraisers than for our art program than any of the other art organizations. And some schools lose their art programs altogether. A great example of that is my mother's own school. They had a great art teacher, and after so many years, they had less and less art supplies because they had no funding, and then they didn't have an art teacher at all because the school just didn't fund arts anymore. And one of the many reasons for this lack of art education that we see in our public schools is because a lot of our schools are beginning to move over to Common Core, which focuses on core subjects such as math and reading and English, the basics, things that can be tested with standardized testing. Now, we all know that arts help students express themselves. And one of the great things about art that Livestrong Foundation points out is that art is the only subject in school that your differences are celebrated. There is no incorrect or correct. Every bit of art you do is great just the way it is. And PBS for Parents also found in their studies that art can help students learn to make decisions. And personally for me, it made it very worthwhile going to school because, we went to a school that had uniforms and everything was restricted and regarded. It was your only creative outlet at school. Now, I'd like to reiterate that most of us can relate to this topic because we have, at some point in our lives, taken an art course. And that I know a lot about how great art education can be because if it wasn't for art education, I probably wouldn't have shown up to high school. And my purpose today was to persuade you all that art should be considered more important in public schools. And the points I covered were how they improve education, are amongst the first to be cut, and help students express themselves. And I think we can all agree that art education most certainly helps benefit all students.